too much, so she'd been burying her head in the sand, or the clay in this instance. She dried her hands and then slipped out the door of her pottery studio into the backyard. "I don't know," Emma finally said, sinking into a chair under the shade of her favorite maple tree. Across the lawn, a burst of spring perennials bloomed in an improvised display of shapes and colors. Emma had planted them years ago when they'd first bought the house. She and Maya had wandered the garden center to pick out the brightest, boldest hues they could find, without any thought to a formal layout or design. It had turned out better than it would have if they'd carefully planned it all out. It was easy, unfussy, so unlike the house where she'd grown up with its manicured lawns, boxwood topiaries, and rose gardens that required a full-time gardener to maintain. Emma loved this garden, loved the yard that Maya had spent hours in when she was young, making up games with the neighborhood kids instead of shuttling off to tennis lessons like Emma had in her own childhood. And then there was her favorite part of the yard, the art studio tucked under an oak tree on the back edge of the property. She'd been surprised when Noah had found a job in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and proposed moving their family away from Boston to a place where they didn't know a single soul. But it had been a good job, with plenty of room for advancement and a lot less travel than his previous job, at least until the last few years. Noah had found them this house in a neighborhood full of kids, with great schools for Maya, where Emma could go back to work as an art teacher when she was ready. The art studio had finally convinced her. It had even come with a pottery wheel and kiln. Looking back, Emma wondered if that move had been the beginning of her and Noah's slow slide toward the separation. As promised, Noah's job had certainly had plenty of room for advancement. But as he rose in the company, the traveling had picked up again. At first, it was just a minor inconvenience for Emma to juggle work and solo parenting Maya when Noah was out of town. But then, about 2 years ago, Noah began to schedule trips almost weekly. And not only was he gone so much of the time, but he was distracted and distant for the few and far between moments he was actually around. Emma had tried arguing with him, begging him to send one of his associates, and finally she'd resorted to ultimatums. The last straw had come about a month ago, and Noah's boss had asked him to attend yet another out-of-town work meeting. Emma couldn't believe he'd even considered going. Maya had been rehearsing her part in the school production of Mamma Mia for months, and the performance was the day of his trip. Noah had looked genuinely devastated as he packed his bag and headed out to the car, but not so devastated that Emma's pleas for him to stay, or the knowledge that it would break their daughter's heart, had changed his mind. "Emma, come on," Noah had sighed, lifting his suitcase down the porch steps and carrying it to the car. "You know if there was any way I could say no, I would." Emma had trailed after him. "There is a way you can say no. Just say it. Tell them you can't go." He tossed the suitcase in the trunk of the car and pressed his palms to his face, like he was utterly exhausted. Something about that gesture had irritated Emma even more. What did he have to be so tired about? All Noah had to do was go to work, while she'd be the one to stay home and break the news to their daughter. "I just need a little more time to get this client's project wrapped up," Noah had pleaded. "You've been saying that for years." She crossed her arms over her chest. "You promised that when we moved here, there wouldn't be any more traveling." Noah had sighed again, dropping his hand to his sides. "Things change. Life happens. If you go on this trip and miss Maya's show, I want you to move out." Noah had paused with the door to the car trunk halfway shut, and for a moment, Emma thought she saw fear cross his features. Then he shook his head and closed the door firmly, leaving his suitcase inside. Now Alicia's voice cut into her thoughts. "How is Maya handling the separation?" Emma sighed. "Oh, she blames me, of course, for asking him to leave." Despite the number of times Noah had let Maya down, he could do no wrong in their daughter's eyes. "She's holding out hope that I'll let him come back." Emma reflexively reached for the wedding ring she'd always worn on a chain around her neck, so it wouldn't get in the way of her pottery. Was it time to take it off? Maybe she was holding out hope that Noah would come back too. She